LVC, and we will begin by reviewing the minutes and getting a motion for approval. We've had a chance to look at that.
Yeah, I was just, I think we should, just with regards to the attendance, we did not meet in December. We should put that on there as just for consistency, because we have August on there where we didn't meet as well.
Sure.
But, so just for consistency, let's add the column in for December and just reference that,
Okay.
in NA, so that, our
Got that. Any other additions, changes, deletions? Hearing none, for the motion for approval.
I'll make a motion for approval with the changes that the mayor made.
I'll second. Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carried. Leslie is not here today. She's ill, and so we'll ask Bob to present the financial report.
As an amateur financial reporter, I'm going to do my best. Instead of taking to page 4 of the financial report, there are 4 active loans in the restricted account. With that, it has an end of month balance of $1,058,868.26. Taken to the UDAG account, and you'll see that right now that the usually you're used to seeing that the CDBG or the restricted account is usually has been less, but since we've loaned out a decent amount of money in the past year and allowed us to UDAG money, then UDAG is a lower balance. But that is the end of month balance on 16 active loans is $967,892.04. There are 2 loans that are at delinquent status. One is Mountain Fresh Dairy, and that's in a bankruptcy. That's a continuing situation. The second is Rama's Catering. A demand letter, formal demand letter was put out by certified letter, and we've asked Corporation Counsel's office to commence litigation in that department for collection.
Has he been in at all?
Mike?
When's the last time you heard from him?
I talked to him directly after pursuing him, and he just said it's not going to happen. I hear you, it's not going to happen.
So you sure he has no intention?
No intention. But at this moment, he goes, when I have it, I'll give it to you, but I'm not going to try to look at it, just pay me, what's monthly and $100 more.
And that balance is less than $3,000.
Yeah, the total balance is $2,997.84. And what's delinquent right now is $1,184.61.
How much was the original loan?
It was $5,000. This is one of the mini micro loans where we're trying to get non-traditional borrowers, and this is
I remember
this is I think we'll eventually get our funds, but it is just one of those things that it's one it's one of the reasons why we do it is to reach out to new communities.
Yeah, but don't we have a lien on there?
See?
We have a first position on their equipment.
Right, we do,
But he
and
does
that's
sell off something, is that correct?
yeah. He was apparently trying to, whether he has or not is not. What we're going to have is reduce the thing to a judgment. His wife has who's a personal guarantor of the loan, has a very substantial job at the university.
The place has been sold, so
Yeah,
the equipment and everything in it, I would be pretty sure that everything's gonna go in the building.
yeah. I really prefer to have the judgment in cash.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. And Jeff, that's it. Are we gonna go on to old business?
Let's go into old business, beginning with Mountain Fresh.
The Mountain Fresh update is that they continue again to they have not paid in at this point about 12 months. We've commenced the foreclosure. The foreclosure has been filed, certified. They've responded. They have some pro forma and very weak defenses that they've put in as far as it goes, but you gotta do that. I've asked again our attorney to bring a motion summary judgment because they're really not disputing anything that's real. In this, they borrowed the money, they haven't paid it back. They had offered to bring it current after not paying it for 12 months. And I said, with the track record you have, it's really not offering me much. At this point, and that's in consultation with the loan committee and the mayor's office, has just said, hey, no, we're not accepting that. So,
If they wanted to pay up and be current with their payments, is there anything you can do about that?
no, we don't have to accept it since they're in default. They're, because what we do, if they brought it current, they're still in default on another major component of the mortgage, which is that they were going to be operating a factory. They stopped operating that factory. So,
Did they become current with the agency by chance?
they did for a period. I don't know where they are right now. So they're very spotty and
Because the
unpredictable.
foreclosure is gonna be between the agency and the BLC.
Right, for the real estate.
So that's still ongoing, and we're still in the process of.
Yes,
Okay.
that's illegal right now. Ken could probably give you more detail, perhaps at the next meeting or so.
When's the last time we examined the condition of the building?
I was in there
Because
about,
NICEAG's off, right?
NICEAG is off. I was in the building about a month and a half ago with a prospective buyer. It's,
Shattuck still.
yeah, Kevin Shattuck's still, doing, maintenance in the building. It's about where it was. I mean, it's, what we didn't start out at
We
perfection.
have to get it through this
Yeah,
winter.
but it's not deteriorating to the point that we wound up with a mess.
Right, that's correct, and I can't guarantee that happening, lasting forever, but, so that's one of the reasons I'm trying to get them, trying to get, the owners in with the buyers. If I had, if we had control over the building, and we're not gonna do it, I can't make a federal constitutional law go away. But if, the owner's a little bit, hard to deal with, to be perfectly honest with you, for the buyers. And that's,
There are buyers for it.
There's interest.
interest, I should probably get interest, yeah. So,
Well, can't we go after them for allowing the condition of the building since they're in default of payment?
if there's.
I mean, we can go and get a judgment to put on put on the utility or just give it up.
Right. If there's wastage, I think we can, maybe have Ken report in, whether directly or whatever. But if there's wastage, we can bring in, we can act in that manner. But one thing we are trying to avoid is spending a whole lot of money making the repairs they should be along the way. But there's no wastage as we sit here today. All right. Okay. The next item is the Main Street program update. I should probably turn that over to Joel.
We're working on a deadline for this of June 20th. Working with 8 properties. We've received the state approval to move ahead with 6 of them. 2 of the properties, 25 Main and 96 Front, are virtually complete. Recently received approval from the state for 5 Main, where they're going to add a barbecue takeout business and a residential unit on the first floor. We've got all the planning approvals for that. That's going to replace a former student assembly space. 8, 11, and 13 Main, where the owner is working toward finalizing some working drawings for the facades, so we can provide those to contractors for a fair bidding process in accordance with the state. 11 has some fairly extensive work going on there. New cornice, extending the tavern space to the second floor, adding 2 residential units at 4 bedrooms total to the third floor. For that, they are receiving an increased grant support. We're working on a streetscape proposal, talking to the owner of 10 Main Street. Concept there to return the stolen kiosk sign that was stolen from the 2012 grant to the intersection of Front and Main, and looking at a bike share program, possibly installing a hub there. We've been talking with a company that has worked with the city of Rochester and many other mid-sized cities throughout the U.S. 9 Main Street, we're waiting on some drawings to move ahead. Met with the owner recently. He scaled back his plans and has got a design professional involved.
I think it's what I can say is what Joel's dealing with is a symphony of moving parts, and it really has. Once we've once got rolling, it's really kind of working really nicely between bringing SHPO, COD, planning, zoning, and all this. There's a lot of moving parts, and then getting people to come up with, they have to come up with a good chunk of the financing along the way. So I think you're going to see some exciting stuff happening on the westerly edge of downtown as far as the west side of the 4th Street Bridge. So I think it should be exciting by the July meeting. Should be some really interesting stuff.
Thank you, Joel. Under new business, we have a resolution we're going to discuss concerning the Charles Street property. The finance committee did meet last week, discussed it in detail, and I'll ask Bob to fill in the blanks here so we understand what's being proposed.
The proposal is that the BLDC purchase from the Broome County IDA, also known as the agency, to the Charles Street Business Park. That portion that hasn't already been transferred or to be transferred to Save Around. It's approximately 14.4 acres. We're getting a survey to lock the exact acreage. That acreage is important because that's the sale price is about $30,000 per acre. As far as, and that's essentially the reason that price is at that number. It's essentially what the IDA sunken costs are in the property and an appraisal as well. The issue that we moving forward with that is we had a loan committee essentially has recommended approval of the contract after requesting some issues, and with the corporation counsel as well recommending receiving and obtaining phase 1 environmental assessments for the properties along the way. I think this is a very exciting thing and opportunities I think the mayor helped bring to fruition after a long struggle. Not struggle, but I think as far as bringing forward, I think it's it hasn't always been a straight thing, but once again he persevered and working with outside agencies to make it happen.
Yeah. So basically, this is a topic we've talked about at previous board meetings, and in essence, there's been a concern by the city that this parcel of land, which has been mostly vacant for almost 20 years, has not received the attention that it deserves. And certainly, the city is somewhat landlocked, meaning that there are not a lot of parcels, contiguous parcels this size or larger in the city of Binghamton. There's really truly only less than a half dozen in the entire city for some large or significant development. And so we were able to work out an arrangement with the county, with the agency. And I appreciate the fact that the agency has been very supportive towards the city in this. Their focus is really all over Broome County. They are primarily responsible for working and developing a lot of the corporate parks outside the county. Certainly from our standpoint, we'd like to see more attention placed on this business park. And I think as this group has shown collectively over the course of the last 5 years, we take on challenges that others shy away from or have been unsuccessful with, and this is going to be another one of them. I think between the IDA and others have put more than $1 billion, I think, in the site development with regards to the road, the lighting, the drainage, etc. So it's certainly worth significantly more than we're going to acquire it for. It's obviously contiguous to the power plant that we accepted, that the city of Binghamton accepted just over a year ago. And interest continues with regards to that facility as well. So from a strategic standpoint, with regards to citywide development, from a strategic standpoint with regards to the power plant, and also the city's currently working with a number of businesses that are interested in the site. There would be a concern that if the agency decides to move in another direction because Their primary goal is understandably just to sell it, just to get it off their books and move it. We want to make sure that it's the correct use for the city, for the neighborhood, et cetera. So I do think that it's important that the city, the BLDC, move forward with this. Typically when we do things like this, it's because we already have a lot of interest from other partners that want to do something at these sites, and this is no different. And so I appreciate the support on this. This would be one of the next big challenges that this board takes on.
Again, the committee looked at it last week, and we certainly recommend approval. Is there any further discussion before we seek a motion?
Just wanted to clarify.
Sure.
We're not buying each acre, we're giving a $50,000.
Yeah. So what's
the right to do?
Well, yeah, so what we're doing is instead of having to pay up front for everything, we're making the down payment of $50,000, and we will have control over the entire site. And as we develop it, if we develop it 1 acre at a time, then we would,
For 10,000.
then we would, it's the 30,000 per acre. So if we do 1 acre at a time, then that's when we would give the agency.
Because that was not in the beginning when we talked about before, that $50,000. I don't remember. That clarifies it.
Right, yeah, the deposit I think was there. It was just, what we've been able to work out with the agency is they're willing to basically hold the note on whatever terms that they want. So we don't have to, in a traditional purchase, you have to pay for it up front or enter into some sort of deal where you're making monthly payments. They basically said, if all we ever do is give them the down payment of $50,000, which is certainly not the goal, but if under a scenario where it's just unsuccessful in perpetuity, then that's all the expense would be. But obviously our goal is to either develop it as a whole or develop different sections of it, and when we have a buyer and plans, this is factored into the formula to make the agency whole. So it truly is a great deal for the BLDC.
And if you lease and not sell the land, what happens? How's that structured?
Well, the bottom line is if we're doing a lease, we would be factoring this cost into the overall deal. So
because that's not listed in how you do that, because you have an agreement on the table with them that outlines different scenarios and.
Well, I mean, the spirit of it is if we develop X amount of acres and we enter into a lease, we would build into that lease structure the payments for those X amount of acres that we're developing.
And in that way, part of that thing, we did think about the lease as an option. Essentially, if somebody's going to lease the property, let's say for, if they're going to build a building, lease the land on, underneath it, that was going to be for no less than like 10 or 20 years, at which point the city can purchase it and work that 30,000 into it.
Yeah, my question was just if you discussed that with the IEA, because right now we just said.
Yeah, I've discussed that with the city, the IEA's attorney, Joe Mayer.
Okay. And can you talk a little bit about the interest you had so far in this time?
Some of it, I don't know how public. I can tell you a little bit of kind of things that are interested, but not necessarily the individual entities. Because I think most of them are, especially there've been some interest as far as I guess roughly say.
Well, I think we can say, one, we've signed a non-disclosure form with.
Right.
So I mean, I think we can confirm that, we've done that. But
Is that a big square footage or small square footage?
well, there's multiple interests from multiple entities.
Right.
So some of it's bigger, some of it's smaller.
Right.
So it's moving along. I mean,
Right.
It's moving along. I think it would be premature to. We can. I'll follow up with you.
Yeah, just something, what kind of businesses, what sizes, not names, exactly what it is, but is it 1, 2, 5, 10, do you have? I mean, it sounds great.
I think one thing I can say, safely say without violating any NDAs in the process, in non-disclosure agreements, is there are at least 6 interested entities in various sizes, ranging from 3 acres, 2 acres to 10 acres.
Yeah.
So there's interest. they're real people who are trying to figure out how to make that work. And the location on the in the first ward, both in the first ward itself and being having a nearby to downtown Binghamton, or both. This is part of the the positive side effects of what's happening in downtown Binghamton is they like to have the land. They also like to be able to have a quick, easy access to the amenities that are downtown.
Yeah, I do my PT over there on Charles Street
Oh yeah,
for my
okay.
hip, so it's a beautiful piece of property, and that Save-A-Lot is
Right.
it's a great building.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a save around. they might be upset with me. Let the record reflect.
It's just coming down Clinton Street, that old Titchener building that I wonder about.
There's some positive
I mean-
developments there. I think probably this time next year there might be some good stuff there.
Good.
So we're really and actually both there and across the street from it.
Right,
So
I mean, that's a great little strip.
we're working hard at it. We really are.
It's about 6 acres.
Any other questions before we go forward? Okay, I have a motion to approve resolution 19-3. Ron, for the second. Fair, thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you, the motion's carried.
Okay, thank you very much.
And now, Mayor's remarks.
Sure, so, I think as most of you know, we had our State of the City last night, a lot of really exciting announcements. So I'll just try to give you a couple highlights that I know this group is interested in. You may have seen over the course of the last 3 weeks, there has been work going on over at the 7 Holly Street site. They've been doing the geotechnical work, drilling down, sampling the soil to determine where the borings would need to go and how deep they need to dig for the foundation work. We expect when the weather breaks, in the April-May timeframe, that well, hopefully the weather will break. At some point, the weather will break, but we hope that it breaks.
Or we will break.
In April or May, and that's when the full work would begin. I can tell you that there's been a lot going on behind the scenes with regards to City Council made passed a lot of the approvals before the end of the year, which allowed the developer to work with a lot of the steel and concrete companies. A lot of this is precast, so that's been going on right now. We've seen. Some of the documents are coming in. They're working with COD on different colors and materials. I've seen some of the color samplings. The mayor's office and planning have been asked to provide input on, different types of concretes, different colors for the brick. We're coordinating with engineering for the adjacent street work that needs to take place. So all of this is going on behind the scenes as we speak, so that when the weather breaks, it's full bore. But I mean, the key is that one of the things that we were very concerned about, which is why we wanted to move quickly at the end of last year, is changes that would take this year with regards to steel tariffs and just the construction costs continuing to rise in 2019. So a lot the orders had been put in with a lot of these companies already at the end of last year. So while the only thing you've seen at the site recently is the 3 weeks of the geotechnical work, there's a great deal happening behind the scenes. So April, May is 45 to 60 days away, and the goal is to still have the parking ramp online before the end of the year. That's the top priority. And one of the things that I announced last night is that we will this year also advance RFQs for Water Street and State Street parking facilities to go out to the development community and see if there's a scenario similar to 7 Holly. Doesn't necessarily need to have all the same components, but some sort of mixed use. This one happens to be parking, housing, commercial retail. There are other combinations that would exist out there as well. Basically just an acknowledgement that we've made progress on demolishing one ramp and building another, but there's still 2 other major ones that exist. One of them obviously connected to Boscov's, and then another one just a block away. So those are more longer term plans, but the action is taking place this year. I can also let you know that Boscov's CEO, Jim Boscov, and I were in Albany this past Monday, meeting with Governor Cuomo's economic development staff with regards to what's going on with Boscov's and putting together a deal to keep them in downtown for the foreseeable future. I can tell you that it was very reassuring to know that the state, they get it, they understand the significance. Obviously, they're sensitive considering they were pursuing a major deal in New York City. It's not the same caliber we're talking about in Binghamton, but they get it. They understand. They recognize what's going on at the Oakdale Mall as well. So we're hopeful that later this year we'll have some significant news with regards to that as well. Our flagship project on the north side next week, the first week in March is when. I believe the steel has already been delivered and more construction equipment comes in. They're going to start driving the steel in next week. So that's the beginning of the major work on that particular project. So if you get a chance next week, drive by, because that is going to continue. They don't need the weather doesn't need to break for what they're doing on that part of it. So there's going to be a lot of activity over there next week. And I wasn't here at the last meeting, so I wasn't able to give you an update. I was in Washington at the U.S. Conference of Mayors winter session. But with regard to the grocery store, I don't think that we talked about that since the announcement, which I believe was in January. So that's really exciting as well. And obviously, this group, has talked about this for years, and we were able to have that deal come to fruition, taking one of the storefronts, one of the 5,000 square feet storefronts in the Canal Plaza project. So our group's strategy on this was very successful, and that was one of the primary barriers in the past had been, people were trying to put together a deal to build a new building and solicit a grocery store, and that was just millions and millions of dollars that was never going to work. So we were able to basically roll the overwhelming majority of the construction costs as part of the Canal Plaza project. So yes, it's 48 units of workforce and affordable housing, 3 storefronts, a total of 15,000 square feet. So the developer is providing a vanilla box that now, through a grant from Senator Akshar, community development block grant money from the city of Binghamton, and donations from a variety of foundations, are taking care of the build-out costs. And Chow will be operating using the same model that's in place in Utica that your bargain grocery has. It's a social purpose grocery store. Now in Utica, they've been in operation for 10 years. They've generated $1 million in profit, and they just recently moved from a 1,200 square foot building into a 10,000 square foot building, a building that's twice the size. So Chow has signed some food source agreements, and that's basically all the vendors that provide the Utica store are they going to be the same vendors that in the beginning provide the Binghamton store. So we're not reinventing the wheel here. Everything's fresh. There's no, this is not things that are about to expire in a week. This is the same quality of product that you're going to see in wherever else, whatever other store that you go to. And there's an agreement in place with Chow and the Utica group to also provide some consulting services in the beginning to help them get the operation. So this building should be complete early next year. The store, they should be able to get into and start doing the build out late this year. And so that will solve an issue that has been unaddressed for 22 years now. So, it's great because this group has taken on those issues, and yes, it's taken time. I mean, those 2 projects specifically we've been talking about for 4 years essentially, and we navigated collectively through a variety of hurdles that were associated with both of those projects. And so those now are well on their way, and instead of just kind of sitting around, we're going to take on another challenge. So there was a lot of other interesting announcements, certainly in the presentation last night. But those, I think, pertaining to the BLDC or the interest of this group, I think those are some of the primary ones. But we'll email all of you a copy of the speech as well, so you can go through. And if there are any questions on it, we can certainly, or if you want more information on items that were included in the speech, we can talk about those specifically at the next meeting.
Thank you, Rick. Bob, any?
I see by the clock I have a half hour, and I like to take all of it. Yeah, just to follow on, you know, with the grocery store, one of the really exciting things to see that is watching all over the years from the 90s, you know, all the different puzzle pieces that have been put in there, and I think, you know, it's kind of exciting to see that being, you know, I think it'd be fair to say that both, you know, the mayor of the city of Binghamton, the Binghamton Housing Authority developer Bruce Levine, the Community Foundation, and other, you know, foundations been really kind of helping Chow, really kind of helped, you know, bring it together, and no one was leaving the table. There were some frustrating parts, I'd be fair to say, you know, along the way, but, you know, there was a commitment to getting it done. You know, and it's not saying any one of the options that didn't end up working out. It was, I think everyone was trying in the, you know, good faith to try to make it work. But, you know, I went up to Utica and visited your neighborhood grocery store. It was really impressive. When it was just a 1,200 square foot facility. They had a large facility, a warehouse behind it, but they do a lot of the food. They have fresh food. They have, and it's not just like fresh food like you see at a, I don't know, like a farmer's market kind of thing. They reached out to the community, the surrounding community. They asked, what are you interested in? So it wasn't, you know, so the buyers are going in there and finding things they want to see. They also had a variety of fresh food, meat. They also had like both frozen food, and even some kind of the fun things. So it wasn't like you're going into like an Army PX and everything's like, you know, whatever. And interesting, you know, food that your kid would want to say, like, yeah, some cinnamon buns or something like that. So it isn't just kind of stuff that I think when the folks are going to go to that store in the neighborhood, they're going to be very pleasantly surprised at the variety and the quality of the stuff. And I actually, you know, I was sitting there at the time. They had one thing was like something like 16 frozen chickens for like $10. It was something, you know, it was a ridiculously good deal, and it was all high quality stuff. I knew if I brought it to the freezer, my wife would have beaten me up, but it was just really impressive. I think you'd be very happy.
Don't get any ideas, please.
In this weather, we frozen chicken.
I think they're in the area. They're actually working that. I think there's Brian's actually been talking with, I believe, Chow about doing some healthy, eating situations. Okay. I'm sure they're open to it. I don't know whether Vines has the, frankly, the farm shares. I don't know whether they'll have the quantity. Now they may have it.
The goal would certainly be to incorporate as many local as possible. So that would be a desire to incorporate them in whatever capacity they could.
Right.
It's just, you know, to get up and running and make sure that every base is covered. This is the starting point, and then, you know, we would want to shift where possible to buy local. I mean, that would be our overall goal.
Yeah. I mean, fair to say that the city has a very cooperative, positive relationship with Vines. We're always trying to incorporate them wherever we can.
So this will be under like a Chow umbrella?
It will be.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the WIC programs and
Yes, all that,
EBTs,
EBTs,
that's
all that.
perfect, that's what you want over there, isn't it?
Yeah.
To serve that underprivileged.
And then the profits get reinvested into the overall mission of Chow. So the profits don't go to, you know, it's not a corporate model. It's a social purpose model. So these profits go into the overall mission of helping
And
those
some
in
jobs for
need.
that neighborhood.
Oh,
They're
yeah,
gonna hire local and to create jobs. I think it's 2 or 3 management positions and several part-time positions. It's open 6 days a week. The hours they're working on as well, but it's, you know, afternoon, evening hours as well.
So we need save around anymore, or save a lot.
That's the,
Whatever it's called.
and so, and I guess I would just add to that, remember that when we were talking about the Canal Plaza project, originally that developer wanted the whole parcel of land, that's a 4-acre parcel of land. You know, we only advanced 2 acres, so we still have 2 acres now that, it can really, you know, be redeveloped however we think is best for the community.
That's the McDonald's site, entrance way.
So the McDonald's entrance way and then the parcel to the
So we
west.
still own it, right?
Yep, we still own it, so, and I can tell you there that we've, you know, there's development interest in that as well.
Yeah.
So,
People are gonna be coming there.
yeah, in our, you know, when we started this conversation, you know, many years ago, our hope and goal was that this project would be an anchor and a catalytic project to help spearhead neighborhood, you know, transformation in the north side as a whole. And of course, the city has been involved in a variety of smaller projects surrounding that as well, whether it was expanding the Barta Center, whether it was demolishing blight in the Liberty Street area, which has led to the Family Enrichment Network wanting to advance a $4.2 million homeless project, to what's going on across the street with the Binghamton Plaza, which is still, you know, a challenge, but we are, you know, working with the owners.
And the DEC project with the launch as well.
Right, so I mean, there is a lot happening on the north side, and it's because the city kind of took the lead and showed the investment, and now you are beginning to see, you know, some private interest. But frankly, that would never have happened without this group and the city working together to advance public initiatives in that area. The private sector is following the investment that is a result of the focus that this group and others have made on the north side.
Well, thanks for your vision.
Yeah.
I mean, that's entirely different.
I mean, it's totally a
12
team
years
effort.
ago.
I mean, there's a lot of people at the table and organizations at the table who are working together in a united way, and what they do at the Barta Center is truly outstanding. But yeah, these partnerships, you know, working together, because no one, you know, city couldn't do it all on its own either. No one person or entity can do it. But we've really tried to put together the vision and take the lead where we could, and bring on other developers and other organizations. So we should still be mindful that, you know, we have 2 acres right in the heart there. That I mean, what the interest that we've seen right now is been commercial based, specifically because, you know, the plaza across the street is in such, you know, dire straits. But you know, there's no reason that it can't be more of a mixed use. Whether it's housing and commercial or whatever, you know, whatever we
There's
want
some
to do there.
residential interest in it as well.
Yeah.
Did those 2 acres get cleaned up and the rest of the property got cleaned up?
You know what, they didn't, but, and actually we pushed for that. But we are able, if we're able to advance another project, it is still eligible for going through the brownfield cleanup program.
Excellent.
Our goal was to say, why would you want to come back and do this again? It's cheaper to do it now, but without having, you know, an actual plan to leverage additional investment. You know, they were really unwilling to do it. But I mean, the state has come through 3 different times on that overall project with 3 major challenges. So their attitude is the state likes to reinvest in its own successes. So the state has, you know, staked their flag in that project as well. So there's no reason to believe that if we're able to put together another deal, which we will, the state will be a partner in that, and that's how we'll get it cleaned up.
And we won't have to do a new study, we already know what's there,
Yes, that's
so
right.
letting just straight to the cleanup.
It's just a matter of like working the plan on a long haul, and just, you know, it's like there's nothing like that. It's not a quick, you know, lotto winning here. It's just a matter of a lot of hard work working towards it.
The other thing is, you know, I mean, the developer. I mean, he's not the one I was talking about, but then I know that the developer, I'm sure, would be interested in doing a phase 2 of the project that he just did, because he wanted the whole site originally. Remember, he wanted to do 2 different complexes there. So there's a lot of potential. This is going to be a good year for the city. I mean, you know, on an unrelated note, and we won't get in the weeds on it, but just something to be aware of, because this group, a lot of people in this group are constantly asked about student housing and the oversaturation of student housing in downtown Binghamton. In 2019, this year, there's going to be over $100 million worth of housing initiatives taking place solely in the city of Binghamton that range from homeless to high-end luxury housing, and none of it is catering to students.
It's great.
So that you've never seen before. And you know, it's the homeless housing project that I mentioned to you. It's the Crandall Street project, it's affordable housing. It's the Matt Paulus project on Emma Street, which is market rate housing. It's Mark Newman's high-end luxury housing project at 50 Front Street. It is our Canal Plaza project, which is workforce housing. So, you know, whatever demographic or spectrum you're from, we're having housing opportunities for all. And then, you know, we've obviously been working with the existing senior housing complexes on helping them, whether it's with pilots or the developers in place that they've been able to rehabilitate. And that's one thing I actually didn't have that in there now that I got that's nice, but for the Shenango Place, you know, they completely rehabilitated that building, Woodford Court. I mean, that's already been done, those investments, but the point is, you know, from every age group and demographic currently has a housing initiative, either, you know, completed or underway in the city. And you've never seen that before. And this group knows that you've never seen more than one construction project of any kind. When Newman's Twin Rivers project, I remember when that started, that was the first private construction project in decades in the city of Binghamton, anywhere in the city of Binghamton of that magnitude. And so we've gone from that, as that being the milestone, because there was no new construction of any kind of that magnitude, to, you know, less than 10 years later, $100 million simultaneously. So, I mean, I think now, you know, we get used to these things, but we forget that there was a time that, you know, this area was starved for any type of development, large or small.
Right. And it's also fair to say it's hitting all those niches that the city has. It's not random.
Right. Oh yeah, it's by design.
Yeah.
It's by design. We want to make sure that, because that would be the comment that I would do. 2014.
Right.
You know, what about housing? You know, for our people who see these beautiful student housing projects, they want to live in those, and no one was doing that. So we made that a priority, and we did not support any more student housing. With regards to providing financial incentives, obviously, we support the concept. If a developer wants to invest in student housing, that's up to the developer. But with regards to the pilots, we have not supported them. But the developers continue to do a great job in the projects they do, large and small. And so we're fortunate to have those developers who took the risk early on in student housing and are continuing to do student housing as well. And so we will continue to support them because we want them to succeed. But with regards to the incentives, that's what we're placing them.
Thank you. Bob, anything else?
No.
Any other items for discussion today?
I'm to get Betsy out now.
Motion to adjourn.
There too.
We have a motion to adjourn?
Yep, motion to adjourn.